Hooray, the no good, terrible, very bad 2025 Chicago Stars season is at last finally over. There were more coaches than there were wins. Can anything be learned from this? And how important are the next few months to the long-term future of this team? We're going to talk about it today on CHGO Stars. Hello and welcome to this season wrap-up edition of CHGO Stars. I'm Alex Campbell, and goodbye to the 2025 NWSL season here in Chicago. 2025 Chicago Stars, you will not be missed. I am pleased, though, to be joined by a great combo here today to conclude this season of regular scheduled shows. First in studio, Joe Chatz on Tap Sportsnet. Thank you for voluntarily coming back here to talk about this team for some reason.
I'll do anything, trek through snow for you, Alex. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, just, truly loyal. The people who regularly come on the show are maybe some of the most loyal relationships in my life. Lesley, Ryder coming in live from Gal Pal Sports headquarters. Another repeat guest who's suffered through this season with us here at CHGO. Lesley, how are you feeling, having been relieved of the burden of the 2025 Stars and, being able to focus on things like picking the best 11 players in this league from way too many to choose from?
Well, I couldn't resist one more chance to scream my feelings about this truly awful season with the two of you. So to this I say, we did it, Joe. We did it.
You did it. I bailed it a lot of times. So you did it. I just hung out and then read the transcripts and acted informed. But thank you.
Yeah, something like that. All right, we're going to do some housekeeping first before we get into the bigger picture stuff. There were 3 more games the Stars had to play since the last time we had a show. That started with a 1-1 draw at Racing Louisville, where Alyssa Nair was great, making 8 saves. Jamise Joseph looked to have snatched a win in the 85th minute with a goal, but of course, because it's the Stars, that wasn't going to hold up, and Bethany Balser scored in stoppage time for Louisville. A goal that actually, in the end of the day, made the difference between them, A, not finishing in 9th again, and B, they made the playoffs in part because of this goal. It was only a 1 point. They were above North Carolina, who just missed out, and then it would have been a goal differential battle. So, credit to Louisville, I guess, for, actually buckling down in a game where they were playing for something and the Stars weren't. Then we had that awful loss, 6-1 in San Diego. It was 3-0 after 18 minutes. B. Franklin was subbed on halfway through the first half for Mana Hayashi, which just seemed like hey, let's not let this get any worse. It did. Obviously, there were 6 goals by the end of this. B. Franklin, though, did score in the 71st minute. Joe and Lesley, I kind of want both your takes on this. This looked like a team that was not prepared for the game. Should we feel that this is more just okay, this is a bad day for a team who was kind of on the beach already, or is this a longer-term concern, Joe, that these players were not prepared for the opponent they were facing?
There's preparation's part of it. There was a 1-2-3 Cancun vibe to it as well. It was a Friday night, 9 p.m. local kickoff. You're already eliminated.
Yuck.
Idaval made it about himself in the end in a ridiculous way. It was such a ridiculous game. Shout out to my buddy Adam for getting married that weekend, so I don't have to focus on it. But it truly it was embarrassing. It was bad. It's great that the Stars actually had the season finale to, wrap things up, because that's as bad a game as you'll see. 6-1 could have been worse.
Yeah. Lesley, do we just basically pretend that all the players had a pina colada in their hands for the entire 90 minutes of this one?
It would have made the match more fun. I would have had a lot of fun watching that. I think it was just start to finish. They were just, outplayed, obviously, but it's just such a stark contrast to some of the games they've had down this second half stretch to see them just be thoroughly just slapped up and down the field was just, it was a little troubling. And it was, it would have been awesome to ask someone about it after the game, but it was just not in the cards. But yeah, it was just it was a weird game. It really was not good, and it just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, that kind of performance. Because they opened the season with a 6-1 loss, but it was, since then, they hadn't been manhandled like that in a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, the performances hadn't all been great down the stretch, but at least the team looked like they had a plan, and in that game, they looked like they were surprised that San Diego wanted to play possession soccer and pass their way through them. But whatever, we're not going to remember that much longer, I don't think. Maybe more people will try to remember the actual final game of the season last weekend, a 2-1 win over Angel City, a game of farewells. Farewell to this season. Farewell to SeatGeek Stadium. The Stars may or may not ever play a game there again. They probably will.
They will.
Yeah, for now, we're not going to miss it. It was a farewell for Kristen Press. Her final game as a professional kind of worked out that it was, against the Stars, a team that she played several seasons for back in the day, of course. The Stars get a win in this game. Angel City were not as bad this season as the Stars, but they were arguably just as disappointing. Allie Schlegel gets the winner in stoppage time, kind of a weird bouncing goal. And then we get the nice moment at the end, which, you get a presentation to Kristen Press as a former Red Star from Alyssa Nair. That's just a very nice moment. And Lesley, I'll start with you on this one, but I think this game might be best remembered devoid of absolutely all other context, because if we just focus on the 90 minutes and then the 20 minutes after, this was a pretty nice day, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, if you take away the surrounding context of the rest of the season, it's a great day out. It's their first win at SeatGeek Stadium in over a year. They're getting points off an opponent that they could not beat earlier in the season. They finished the season with a win. I don't think they've done that in a few years now. Last season, certainly not. 2023, no. I guess it's been a few years.
And even when they were good, they were finishing the season with losses because it was usually getting drubbed in the NWSL championship game. Yeah,
which it's just it was very interesting to hear from Alyssa Nair after the match, the highlights of SeatGeek Stadium, or lack thereof. She said she will not miss playing in that south goal, the swirling, windy hellscape of SeatGeek Stadium. And yeah, I mean, there's this really, really nice bookends and torch passing when you zoom out a bit. You have Sarah Gordon, who was the last Chicago Red Star Iron Woman, passing the torch to Taylor Ballum, the next one. You have Kristen Press retiring from the game and the place where she began. And then if you just don't look too hard, you could be like, all right, and then next season they'll pick up this effort and do better. But unfortunately, we have been watching this season, and so understandably, there's a bit of unease going into the next few months.
Yeah, and if people who follow the Stars and maybe the Stars players would also appreciate, Alyssa and I are not alone in feeling that way about SeatGeek Stadium. It was very funny that Joe and I both got to witness this as when the Chicago Fire ended their season, Philip Zinkernagel got in one more jab for the road at how much he hates that place. So, it's SeatGeek, again, it's at least out of everyone's minds for a little while. And again, that's one thing that at least in the short term, the Stars will not be worried about. Well, it was not a good season, that is for sure, but let's take a moment to remember that it could have been so much worse. Because if we take a look at the worst seasons in NWSL history, they do not make this list. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will be taking a look at that now. They are just outside of this as the Stars and Bay FC, who real credit to Bay FC for making the wooden spoon chase interesting, because holy crap were they terrible for the second half of the season. Worse than the Stars were, which is really hard to comprehend.
Well, they were dealing with some off-the-field crap, and how Montoya was allowed to finish everything is beyond me and says way more about the NWSL than it does about anything else. But yeah, they were real bad, despite obviously still having some great talent, but couldn't recover from losing some players. Oshuala is now playing at like Al Nassr's training ground in Saudi Arabia. So
things are going well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What a great franchise. Remember that Wrigley Field game? That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was 15 months ago now, but who's counting? But yeah, if we look at these worst teams ever, the Stars this season with 3 wins, they do not make this list, but they are, there are only ever 2 NWSL teams who have won fewer games than the Stars did. So if they had not won on decision day, they would be on this list, and they'd be pretty high up at Sky Blue and Washington Spirit in the same year in 2018, produced the 2 worst seasons in NWSL history. You can look at this list in a couple of ways, and basically it means that if you end up on this list, one of 2 things is going to happen to you in the next 2 or 3 years. You're going to either win the NWSL championship or you're going to go out of business.
Wait, is Alyssa Nair on this list twice for the Boston Breakers in 2016?
Yeah, Alyssa Nair would have been.
Oh, nope. That was her first year in Chicago. Congratulations on Alyssa Nair avoiding that year.
Avoiding being on this list twice.
Congratulations, massive.
But yeah, you've got Sky Blue FC, wet belly up. Not long after that, before being reborn as Gotham, the Boston Breakers have never returned. But yeah, then you get that Gotham team and the more current Spirit team and the current all doing quite well. Orlando as well. Which of those will the Stars be? We will leave that to you to ponder. So let's move on to part 2 of something I started last episode, which was recapping the different positional groups for the Stars this season. We went over the goalkeepers and the defenders last time. I think mostly had some okay stuff to say, given that the defenders were kind of given an unenviable task.
Yeah,
in this
wasn't their fault.
And Alyssa Nair did what she could. Let's go to the midfielders and the 2025 group for the Stars, and there are shockingly few of them. Only 2 players we can actually call midfielders played 20 or more matches this season. That's Julia Grosso and Maitane Lopez. And then you've got Mana Hayashi pretty quietly playing 17 games. Most of her 7 starts come late in the year. Shea Groom, just another injury-riddled season for her. Leilani Nesbitt, of the 4 coaches this season, the first 2 apparently forgot she existed, and so she didn't get any even mop-up time until the end of the year. Oh, and then Chardonnay Curran was here earlier before leaving the club mid-season. Lesley, when you look at this group, other than the lack of depth, kind of what's your big takeaway here from what in a lot of ways was just kind of, until there was some more organization late in the year, a black hole in the middle of this team?
Yeah, I mean, the midfield has been a struggle for this team since that core group that had driven them to so many playoff and final appearances, left in free agency because of what they had gone through. All of them at once. Yeah, and so they've still just been trying to rebuild back to that moment, and unfortunately, they didn't have the juice. The only veteran player that they bring in the offseason is Maitane Lopez, who, I think she did her best with what she was given. But Leilani Nesbitt was injured for much of the year, so she didn't really get a chance to find her groove. She was really looking forward to having a stronger sophomore season, and she just couldn't stay healthy long enough to crack the starting 11. And Shea Groom, just I felt for her. She had made her comeback and had scored her first goals in a couple of years, and just to get hit with another injury that ends her season is just it's a dagger. This is a midfield group that is green. You have Julia Grosso, who is still kind of adjusting to this league and figuring out how she works best, and you have Mana Hayashi, who is very much still playing like a rookie. And then after that, there's no depth. There's no one to plug in. And when injuries happen to every team, you just have to be more prepared than the Stars were this season.
And Joe, I think maybe the thing that was most brutal, to follow up on Leslie's comment about Shea Groom, we got that really, really brief window of time where it felt like the Stars had settled on kind of a new strategy and a new tactical setup with that diamond midfield. And we got 2 or 3 games of Julia Grosso and Shea Groom playing together in a way that made sense. A thing we just hadn't seen all year, as Grosso had been pushed really wide, as it wasn't clear what Groom's role was when she was healthy. And we got, again, you get those 2 or 3 weeks where it's like, okay, this is great. We actually see these players together. And then Groom gets hurt. And although Grosso was pretty decent, I thought, down the stretch of the season, it's just, you could see how this might have worked in theory, but we basically never really saw it get any run of a group that made sense together.
Yeah, but all power to Shea Groom. She, at this point of her career, really should be seen as a super sub. Seeing her as a starter is wishful thinking at this point, and this points to all the problems with the roster build. Maitane was brought in as a center back, allegedly. I was told all offseason she's going to be a center back. She's going to be a center back. She played like 45 minutes at center back because they needed her at midfield, which, again, if that's your fallback option automatically, Carrie Ricardo doesn't go back to midfield. That's a whole different question that we still don't know the answer of. There's so many questions about this midfield that it never made sense. We saw how tough it was for Julia Grosso to adjust in year one from a much more methodical league in Italy in the way that it was played at Juventus. Like, it was going to take her time, and there was just, like, Hayashi was good, not great. Her best asset is how she delivers on set pieces and corners. It's going to take her time to adjust from playing at the Santa Clara level to the NWSL. She's a top player who's going to be playing international soccer for years and years and years for a great nation in Japan. So they've got some players, but the depth, as Lesley said, was never there.
No.
It was never there. Injuries, you need midfield depth no matter what. You're going to get, most of your midfield in theory is going to get the yellow card accumulation. These things happen in a season. You're going to get a boot to the leg that knocks you out for 2 weeks. That's what playing midfield is. And it just, they went so cheap at it this offseason that now they got absolutely screwed because of it. And you look at the current pieces there, there's not much to look forward to other than Julia Grosso, who needs better players next to her to be the best version of herself.
Right. Also, I realized I somehow left B. Franklin off that chart, which B. Franklin had 23 appearances this year. But again, it's kind of the same thing. It's, if you've got a midfield of her, Grosso, and Maitane, again, Franklin and Maitane are both very much more players who are helpful against the ball. If you're trying to move the ball forward in possession, they're not going to be a big help. That's a knock-on from the fact that other than Sam Staub, you didn't really have anybody in the back line who was giving you a whole lot of progressive passing, and those things compound. Let's move on to the forwards, which, looking at this group, it's interesting because what you see is a pretty consistent 3 or 4. Ali Schlegel, Ludmila, Jamise Joseph, and Nadia Gomes getting basically all of the minutes, which I know Joe and I have had this conversation several times. Gomes playing as much as she does is quite confusing. Ava Cook, again, just kind of forgotten about, generally speaking.
Put it left back, which just, don't get me started.
Just why. But, you look at the top of this list, and Lesley, I'll go back to you here. Ali Schlegel, Ludmila, these are players who, they've got that, that I guess, especially in attack, that, that it's a bit of a try-hardness situation here where they're going to just keep swinging away at an opposing defense. And I guess maybe the bright spot here is Jamise Joseph. And I didn't even, it didn't even make sense to even include Michaela Johnson here, who made a few appearances, but just it felt like, the Stars had one option here, and it was, we're just going to throw these players out here, and they'll do whatever they can, which unfortunately this season was often not very much.
Yeah, it's been a really weird year for the forwards. I think, injury also playing a factor for, like, Jenna Bike getting knocked out for much of the first half of the season, and as soon as she comes back, gets hurt again, which is just like another bummer for the team. I feel like the coaching staff was trying to figure out what the best combination of, like, Schlegel, Ludmila, and Jamise Joseph looked like. And then Nadia Gomes just kind of started getting those minutes from the start of the match, which I found kind of interesting. I like, as a person who has had to sign, like, 3-4 different short-term contracts, I say all the power to you for getting those minutes, but I don't think she's a long-term option for the Stars. I think I mean, I think Ludmilla had a hell of a season to come back for her second year and really be like, "Hey, this is who I am. I see your little American League. I got it." And Jamise Joseph following up on her rookie year, I think she still has her moments where she's learning up and live of like making those decisions in real time, but it's paying off for her. Like she's getting those calls into U23 camp, and so I think it's a promising note for her development. I will say we haven't had a lot of opportunities to see her, but what I have seen from Yvonne Chacon so far, I have been intrigued by. I like her ability to run downfield, get the ball, hold up play, and just kind of look around. Gives me some Mel Swanson vibes of like, hey, I got the ball. Anybody want to come with me? So I'm interested to see what seeing her and Ludmilla play together more, and seeing her and Mel Swanson play together more. And Allie Schlegel, of course, like what more can be said about Allie Schlegel as
they're gonna let a
like,
future captain walk for free. It's insane.
Like that is a like heart and soul player of the team, like absolute
the face
guy.
of all the PR this season. Like she was like in lieu of Mal Swanson, because you're not going to have, it's not really Mal's thing anyway, but you're really not going to have Mal be doing the public facing stuff when she's not playing. Like that just kind of just makes sense. And Schlegel is this player who on and off the field, and actually, Sean, we're going to skip ahead here a little bit if we want to take a look at the current free agents still on this on this roster who have not been re-signed. Schlegel is the number 2 player on this list in terms of games played for the club. She trails Alyssa Nair by 120, because Alyssa Nair is certified legend, been here a very long time. And then you've got Carrie Riccaro, who this is kind of in a what feels like a Mal Swanson situation, and we'll move on from that. Ava Cook, Shea Groom. Again, just a player who it feels like they're probably not going to pick up the option on because she just hasn't been on the field enough. Availability is the best ability. Haley Makowitz, third string goalkeeper. That's probably her time with the Stars done. No, but Schlegel is this player who, among all the mess that this team has been, she is somebody who's going to give you 110% on the field. Is she the best natural striker in the world? No, but she's going to do her best. And then off the field has been willing to be the face, the forward-facing player, a face of the team in what you're hoping is a transitional period. And that's, even in the best of scenarios, a thankless job, even if you get to be a face of the team in happier times down the road. And if the end of this is just kind of this quiet whimper of she scores that last goal at SeatGeek Stadium, and then that's that, it's going to be just another just huge, confusing moment in this team's, half.
Yeah, and if nothing else, one thing that will always be a lasting legacy for Allie Schlegel in Illinois is the fact that she was one of the speakers for the Stars that spoke in front of, I think it was the Illinois General Assembly, to make so when it was overturned that if it's public funding, you have to also do it for women's sports, as should have been for forever, but now it's in law, even though the state of Illinois is not giving anyone public funds for this. Anywho, just Allie Schlegel, if you brought her back as a backup forward, she would have been a great option in the future. She did everything for the team on and off the pitch. These are the types of things that makes players not want to come play for you, that will make players not want to do things in the future, is when you see that this is how it's operated and this is how they reward you by not, optioning the contract and moving forward. You've looked at the process of roster builds with this team. Yvonne Chacon was brought in at the end of the window because the Stars paid her release clause, not because she necessarily wanted to come here and was ready to make that deal. They paid a 500,000 euro release clause to Levante's side. That's fine in Spain, but nothing special, not a dominant team, not a team that really plays in Europe. So it just all comes down to what is the plan, and is everything just a fallback option? Because if that's the case, why wouldn't you keep one of your young stars who can do, God, pun not intended, but I know that's terrible, But truly, why wouldn't you bring Allie Schlegel back? She's not going to break the bank. She's going to be a great option on the field. She's powered through everything. We still don't know what that injury was in 2024. I'm still annoyed about that. Allie's going through some stuff. What? Like, if it's serious and it's affecting the team.
Who knows?
Yeah, an injury not on the availability report is on the availability report. Like, everything about it makes no sense. So, like, I hope Allie Schlegel gets the bag and gets to go somewhere and absolutely can
Denver.
hang out. Oh my God, if she goes to Denver, pay her. Let her be on TV every week at whatever local affiliate. Give her a 30-minute slot every week. She will make you money.
In which it's also like, again, like the juxtaposition then of like Sam Staub and Julie Grosso signing long-term extensions, and I'm just like confused about this. B. Franklin as well signs a new contract. The one especially who's confusing, Lesley, is Staub, because it kind of feels like there's an opportunity to play your way into a very wide open USWNT center back group right now. I mean, you've got 19-year-old Jordan Bugg getting a lot of minutes right now, who's a great player, but again, there's nothing settled. It's, there's 10 different players who could be starting next to Naomi Girma in Brazil in 2027. Staub's one of them. And so on the one hand, to see the way a player like Schlegel has kind of been not repaid for her efforts, but then to see Staub and Grosso and Franklin and Malamal be like, yeah, I'll sign on to this for 2 or 3 more years. Lesley, what have you made of this weird combo of news and non-news we've gotten?
I mean, like, I think Sam Staub should absolutely be in the national team conversation for center backs. Like, that is a side separate conversation of like, Emma Hayes, what is your deal with not calling in players between the age of like 24 and 30? Like, separate conversation. I get it. The children are the future, but we still have a World Cup to win in a year. But I know we've heard the players talk about it a lot this season, is that locker room is tight. Like, that is
they've been through it.
That is perhaps trauma bonded by what they have been going through over the last 2-3 seasons. And so I feel like for Sam Staub, this is an opportunity for her to take the reins and be the leader that I think she needs to be at this stage of her career. Like, there is,
right.
We don't know what's going to happen with Alyssa Nair next season. If she is to depart and retire or go somewhere else, who knows? We'll find out when she decides to tell us. But there's going to be that, void in the locker room of that outward leader. Like, Mal Swanson is a leader on that team, but she leads in a different way than, say, like an Alyssa Nair.
Right. Staub's probably the club captain if Nair departs. And for the record, as we look forward into this offseason around here, the most likely source for an emergency pod on the Stars front in the near future is if Alyssa Nair makes any announcement that isn't coming back to the Stars. I don't think that would be emergency worthy, but she deserves a eulogy from a lot of places. Yeah. Even when some announcement is made there.
She's not coming back to the Stars. She's not even on the marketing materials. If they knew something, they'd include her there because SEO value. We know how this works now. So she's not. Well, she'll do it on her own time. It's Alyssa Nair. She'll go on the women's game and talk about it. So we'll see. That'll be fun around Christmas, I'm sure.
Yeah, and again, that'll be a situation where, everybody will just be rooting for Nair to, go out on top and in whatever way she wants to. Yep. Before we get out of here, couple of things. Obviously, Joe, this squad needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you're going to start somewhere, though, is it fullbacks? Is it midfield depth? Is it, really shoring up the goalkeeper position? What's number one if you're Richard Fuse going into this winter?
Oh, that's a different question. Because he's been there this is close to 24 months. So how many days is that? That's 650-ish days. Out of 1,000, that's the mission. So you'd think first thing you have to do is shore up the goalkeeper. That's an instant way to raise your floor on this team that should realistically, in year 3 of a project, be contending for a title. So I guess I'd say you start with goalkeeper, and then you got to go to midfield. But now that Schlegel's gone, you need a backup striker or two. You need center back depth behind Kati Hendrick and Sam Staub. Hannah Anderson, who knows what the new coach is going to think of her. Kati Hendrick's been great, but she's of an age where you can't rely on a player to stay healthy throughout the year, especially if she's going to be doing national team duty as much as she has. She was great since she showed up, but like for the record, like she really was great. But another thing of process, why is she in Chicago? Why did she come so late? Everything was pointing to great relationships with Babette Peter and Ella Masser, not anything specific about what the club did. Oh, by the way, Ella and Babette, we don't know if they're going to be here next year. So all of it comes down to, I just am so confused by what the roster build is going to look like, because I just don't know what the process is other than them shooting at a dartboard and hoping someone actually says yes.
Yeah, because it's in a position where it needs a lot of work, but, you know, it's the question of, is this team going to spend money? And if they are, okay, it'll be interesting, and we'll see how the targets they go for do. If they don't, yes, more consistent coaching is going to help. A healthier roster will help. Mal Swanson coming back, that all helps. But again, you mentioned there, Joe, the floor, maybe you can raise it with some moves. The ceiling on this team is limited as long as it's required that a certain group of 11 players have to be fit, because that's just not how the sport works. And yeah, you can see that this team's got an 11 that can maybe be competitive, but there's not a 12 through 20 that makes you feel that way. Last few final notes. First of all, we mentioned Mal a couple times. All the best to her and Dansby. They seem fairly close at this point to welcoming their first child, so hopefully all goes...
Gotta be any day now.
Yeah, hopefully all goes well with that, and there is good news to come there. Lesley, Joe, shout out to you guys for, your coverage throughout the season, which, again, you might both say, oh, it's light work, but at the same time, you are willing to put way more hours into this team and covering women's soccer in this city than anybody else, so salute to you both.
Lesley did the work, y'all. I bailed a lot. Lesley did the work. Give Lesley all the props, because Lesley really did all the work this year and dealt with crap when I was in bad moods, and has dealt with my DMs when I can't deal with this team. So surely give Lesley all the credit. The disrespect you got sometimes from the team was unacceptable. Fact that we couldn't get players half the time that we wanted. You're the bomb. I don't know how you have the patience, because I don't.
This amount of praise and compliments makes me uncomfortable.
Yes! There it is. Woohoo! Anyway, Lesley, where can people find what you're up to now that the season's over?
Yeah, I'll keep trekking on during the playoffs. I'll be in the Bay for championship weekend. I'll see you around there. I'm impossible to miss. So if you see me, say hi. Yeah, and then we're getting the PWHL in Chicago for a couple of days. So I'm super excited for that. Get back to my roots, and looking forward to Scream following all of Chicago's off-season activities.
All of the activity or none of the activity, we shall wait and see. Well, thank you to Lesley and to Joe and to everybody who contributed to the show this season. Thank you to Sean Anderson behind the scenes for making this thing run. Always appreciated. And thank you so much to everybody who's watched on YouTube, who's listened to the podcast, who has, been along for the ride in what's been a very difficult season. Hopefully, when I see you next year, we have at least a few more wins to talk about. Is that so much to ask? For now, enjoy the rest of the NWSL playoffs. Enjoy the offseason. If there's any real big news, we'll have emergency pods ready for you. But until then, I'm Alex Campbell, and I'll see you then on CHGO Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.
Hey, Leslie's still here.
Oh my God, we did not know that you were still here.